Hello and welcome back to another Demis Hellen tutorial. We are going to do a very quick video today, but it's a very essential video, and that is the top things to do when you are starting your trance tracks. So the first one that I'm going to cover is templates. Have yourself a template. So you could have your synths and your basses already compiled in a folder with a certain preset of patterns. It could be anything, and just have it there ready to go straight away so you can start composing your ideas. You're straight to the creativity rather than the tedious setting up and picking sounds. And then you can go into your mixing. You can have some of your favourite things already set up on your effects channel lines, so you could have some basic EQ and a bit of compression on it to just start things off, and have everything listed at -6, -12, -18, whatever you prefer to use, so you can start your gain staging instantly. It's always a good thing to start with. So templates is always a go-to thing for me, and it helps you craft your sound and mould it as you go along. You can keep saving your templates or save new iterations so you can see how you've developed. Another great way is to get a template online, say at myloops.net for example, and you can then craft your sound from a template that you know sounds really good, and you've got a good base to start on and work out your next melody. So the next thing that I would definitely say is naming tracks and colour coding tracks. Now, as you can see here, we've got folders that are colour coded a turquoise colour. Then when you open them up, you've got all your synths in there and they're all turquoise. Apart from the ones that are like Atmos, I'll just separate them out with the next colour in line. As you can see, these are labelled, but these ones aren't. So if we go to here, that is a square lead. So we can go in there and we can put square top, because I want that to be on the top, and then you just rename them all so you know exactly where you're going and what you are editing. And these little colour coordinations, just for the atmosphere, that's great to have in your synth lead line area as well, so it becomes part of your synth bus when they're sent to the bus on your mixer. And the same with basses. Again, anything that's kind of a supporting effect is a offset to the colour that they're on, which is this kind of orangey yellow colour, and that is a couple of bass synth effects that sit on the top. And then we've got pads here, which I haven't named, so we can go pads 1, and then as long as on Cubase you hold shift, and when you hit enter it will rename all the blocks in line with it. And then all my kicks and percussions are all in red, and as you can see they're all labelled. So this one's still got the original label of the track. There we are, kick. And this then goes straight through to your mixer, and you can see, oh, all my bass elements are here in red, all my percussion, and all my basses and all my synths are here. Now square top doesn't seem to have come through. Let's just go back here. As you can see, square top, I missed that. So go in, colour it, done. And then everything on your mixer is updated to reflect that, and you've got them all in certain sections. So that is the first two things that I would definitely do. The third thing is to have a solid melodic line. So don't just create something random and then go with it if it doesn't sound quite right to you. Get it right from the start before you start layering things up. If you're going to create this melody like we did the other week, video on screen now if you want to see that, there is the melodic line, and say that we weren't too happy with it. Let's not start duplicating, let's not start stacking these tracks up like we've done here. Get it right before you start doing that, and then when you start stacking them up, things are going to blend a lot nicer. And this leads me on to my next point, is picking your sounds wisely and making sure they work together. A little bit of EQ to kind of separate the frequencies and give them their own space in the mix, but they've got to work together from the start. You can't have two sounds that clash and just don't sound right. It just sets you up to fail later on in the track when you're trying to get everything to sit nicely. The sound is just rubbish. So as you can see from here, we've got a bit of a plucky sound, not much weight behind it. So it's more of the sparkly stuff that sits on the top and really makes those notes shine over the mix. Then we have a bit of body, as you can see here from the plucks, which is the Atmos. So really this is just providing the background noise, which is just a copy of the pluck body one. Then here we have the weight. So there's a little bit more of a weight on the bottom end. and it's got the power, so it's driving this melody forward. And coupled with the pluck, you get a little bit more of a transient detail poking through, which is exactly what you want, and it sounds like it's part of the same sound. That's what you're aiming for. Okay, and then square topper. I don't think this one's going to play. For some reason at this point it just won't play, but this is an extra melody that sits on the top, and you can see they're quite high up on the octaves here, and that square sound kind of pokes through a little bit more and emphasises that top melody. Then we have another synth layer which provides some more warmth again, but it's just a slightly different sound to this one. This has got more of a longer tail on the release time, and this is a little bit more stabby, and it's got a bit more of the 90s rave-esque feel to it. And then this one, we have a really weak synth which provides a bit more body to the pluck. So nearly they can mix together and it would sound like the same sound. So that is how I approach my synths, and then you obviously can go back to this layering thing when you've got all your sounds right, and that just generates a much nicer feel. And then that's underpinned with a bit of bass here as well, so that is entirely up to the user when you're making the track. And then the final point that I would add is to not go absolutely crazy with your effects chains. And what I mean by this is, you can see there's a lot of stuff going on here, but I'm doing a lot of shaping, and then once it hits the bus, then I will control it from there. So in some cases, like if you look at this synth here, I've just literally got one track on there, and that is an EQ, and that's just doing some basic shaping there. And on that shaping, you're just setting it up to work with your track. So this particular one, it needed a little bit of control. So as you can see here, there's a little bit of gain reduction here for the gain staging. And then here, I've just got Firefly set to compress the signal just a little bit, so it's just catching those peaks and smoothing that top layer out, so we're not getting random peaking over here of the left-right channels just bouncing all over the place and the peak hitting too high. All part of your gain staging. And then you've got this one which has got a hell of a lot more effects, is the one that's not playing. Let's just demonstrate it over here. For some reason it plays over here, so it's okay. We'll just hit repeat there. And you can see there's a lot more going on here, so let's just bypass. There we are. So to achieve the sound that I wanted, we've had to go through an EQ and then a little bit of reverb on there. So it's got its own reverb channel rather than going through the synth reverb I have set up. Then some compression. Then it goes through a saturator, and then it's got a filter on it just to control the filtering in and out. And adding a bit of saturation with a bit of a higher tone gives me some more top end on that melody, and that's what I had to do to get to that point. But you don't need to have a compressor on every single channel. You don't need to have drastic EQ on each channel. If you've chosen your sounds right, all you're going to need to do is just a little bit of minimal EQ in there, as you can see. So choose your sounds wisely. Make sure your effects chains are reflecting what you're trying to achieve without over-engineering something. That is probably the best bit of advice I can give, because the more you start engineering the sound, when it gets to a point when you want to tweak it, you look at your effects chain, you think, well, where do I start? How do I start? What have I done? And it's the number one thing that I see, over-processing and gain staging. People are always asking, my mix is stuck. It's clipping, I can't see and I can't control how to stop the clipping. It's just crazy. If you're gain staging from the very beginning, you're never ever going to have that problem. Ever. So they are my top tips for making sure that you start your track well on a good bed of foundation sound. If you don't choose your sounds right, if you don't do your colour coordinating, if you don't name your tracks, it makes things very difficult, especially if you're collaborating with other people. If you don't name your tracks and you send this off to someone, they're just going to look at it and go, what? And they're not going to have any idea where to start. And they're just going to go in and rename it, and it's just going to take more time, and they'll probably just fire it back at you and say, can you sort it out? So just do it from the beginning. It's really good practice to just get started. So I hope this video was okay for you. Time's a little bit short this week. Been really busy, and I still wanted to put something out that you can use, and this is definitely information you need to keep close to you and put it into your every single production that you start on. So thank you very much for watching. If you haven't already, subscribe, 3 videos a week. Also, drop me a comment and a like, and I get back to everybody. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.